Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow believers, I stand before you today with a heavy yet hopeful heart, for the times we are living in are unlike any other. The world is changing rapidly, and many are blind to the shifts that are already taking place right under our noses. We've heard the warnings, we've read the prophecies, but as we look around, we might wonder, are we truly seeing what is unfolding? This would mean that we were prepared for what we expect. And if you think things are progressing in old nations, these signs, warnings, and control, the forces of manipulation, the rise of evil, are not something that will happen in the future, but something that is already happening now. The Bible speaks of signs, warnings, and a coming shift. But these signs, though they are right in front of us, are often dismissed or misunderstood because they don't look the way we expect them to. So today, I invite you to open your eyes, to see beyond the surface, and to recognize the truth that's been staring us in the face all along. The time is now, and it's up to each of us to discern the reality of the moment. We must be aware, we must be wise, and we must act with the courage of those who know the truth. Let's take a journey together through the signs, the warnings, and the revelations that have been laid before us, and let's discover how we can stand firm in faith as the world around us shifts. What if the things we fear the most are already taking place, but because they don't look the way we expected, we fail to recognize them? This is a thought that should cause us to pause and reflect. We often imagine that the most significant changes in life will come with a sudden, dramatic shift. We envision chaos, loud alarms, and a world crumbling before our eyes. But what if instead the true transformation happens in the quiet spaces, in the corners we often overlook, in the moments that we assume are inconsequential? What if the world around us is already changing and the signs are right in front of us, but because they don't fit the mold we've expected, we miss them entirely? Change is often so gradual that it slips past our awareness. It's not always a bombshell event that shakes the earth. Sometimes it's the slow, subtle shifts that accumulate over time, transforming the landscape of our lives without us even realizing it. Consider the world we live in today. Technology, society, values, culture, everything has evolved at an astonishing rate. But the truth is, many of us didn't see it happening. We were too caught up in the day-to-day, too distracted by the noise around us. It's like the proverbial frog in boiling water. Slowly, over time, the temperature increases, but the frog doesn't notice until it's too late. It doesn't realize that the environment has shifted, and by the time it does, it's unable to escape. We have been conditioned to think that change will come like a thunderclap, something that will shake us awake from our slumber. We wait for the moment of revelation, the grand event that will clearly mark the turning point. We wait for the world to change in dramatic bursts, for things to get worse in ways we can clearly see, and then we believe we will know how to respond. But the reality is that change is often so imperceptible, so gradual, that we hardly notice it until we are already far down the road. By the time we recognize the full extent of what has happened, it is already too late to do anything about it. This is the way it happens in the most significant shifts in human history. The rise and fall of empires, the shifts in power, the cultural revolutions. All these things don't happen overnight. They happen through a series of smaller steps that, when viewed in isolation, seem insignificant. However, when you step back and look at the full picture, the magnitude of those changes becomes evident. It's in the quiet moments when nothing seems out of the ordinary that the greatest shifts occur. People don't notice the subtle erosion of freedoms until they look back and realize how much has been lost. Societal changes occur in ways that seem harmless at first, but the slow creep of new ideologies or systems can completely alter the course of history before anyone sees it coming. For example, consider the rise of digital technology. A few decades ago, the idea of being constantly connected, of carrying a device in our pockets that could access the world's knowledge, communicate with anyone, and even track our every movement seemed like something out of science fiction. But today it's commonplace. Over time, we've become so accustomed to this technology that we barely notice the profound shift it's brought about. Privacy is no longer a given. The way we interact with one another has changed. We rely on digital platforms for nearly every aspect of our lives. These changes were not forced upon us in a sudden dramatic event. Instead, they crept in, bit by bit, until they became the new norm. And now, we find ourselves in a world where our dependence on technology is so ingrained that we often don't even question it. The same principle applies to other areas of life: societal values, political systems, even personal behavior. We have witnessed gradual shifts in how we view relationships, morality, and community. These changes have not been marked by an obvious moment of crisis. Instead, they've been slow and almost imperceptible. We've watched as the foundation of our culture has shifted, piece by piece, often without fully realizing what was happening. We've been so focused on the loud voices, the grand statements, the dramatic headlines that we've failed to notice the silent shifts happening underneath the surface. One of the dangers of not recognizing these gradual changes is that we can find ourselves in a place where we are no longer in control of the direction we are heading. When we fail to notice the shifts, we allow them to take place without our consent. The small, seemingly insignificant actions and decisions of today can lead to a future that looks entirely different from the one we had imagined. Just as a river carves its way through the land over time, changing the landscape little by little, so too do the slow shifts in society and culture reshape the world without us even realizing it. By the time we see the changes for what they are, the course has already been set, and we may feel powerless to change it. This is why it is crucial to pay attention to the small things, the quiet moments, and the subtle shifts happening around us. We must train ourselves to see beyond the obvious, to look deeper, to question the changes that seem insignificant on the surface. We must learn to recognize the patterns that emerge gradually, and not wait for the big, loud event that we expect to mark the turning point. If we continue to ignore the quiet shifts happening all around us, we will find ourselves in a world we didn't choose, one that we didn't recognize as it was happening. And when we finally wake up, it may be too late to change the course. The truth is, the things we fear the most, the challenges, the crises, the changes, are often already in motion. They are happening in ways we don't recognize because we've been conditioned to expect something more obvious, more dramatic. But the real transformation, the real shift is often subtle. It's in the little things, the unnoticed changes, the silent shifts that will ultimately define the future. It's happening now, but are we paying attention? Or will we look back and realize that the most significant change was the one that happened while we weren't looking? The Bible says the signs will be in front of us, yet many miss them because they're looking for something else. This statement resonates deeply when we consider the way many of us approach the prophecies of the Bible, especially those concerning the end times. We often imagine that the signs will be unmistakable, grand and overt, a dramatic shift in the heavens or a loud, earth-shattering event. We expect to see something so undeniable that it will leave no room for doubt. But what if the signs are already here, in plain sight, and we're missing them because they don't look like what we anticipated? We have a tendency to focus on the extraordinary, the sensational, the loud. We expect the signs to come with such force and clarity that there would be no room for misunderstanding. Yet, if we are honest with ourselves, the most dangerous shifts often begin as something small, harmless, and unthreatening. The Bible speaks of the arrival of the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, and the rise of a world system that opposes God's will. But it also warns that these things will not appear as we expect. In fact, they will come in forms that seem perfectly normal, even desirable at first. And it is this very fact that makes them so dangerous. Take, for example, the concept of 666, the number of the beast. We have been conditioned to think of it as an ominous, perhaps even supernatural event that will manifest in a specific, fearsome way. We envision a world where people are forced to choose between receiving the mark or facing dire consequences, where the Antichrist will rise in a blaze of glory and the world will be plunged into chaos. But when we look at the world around us today, we begin to see that the real danger lies not in the dramatic, but in the gradual. Technology, global unity, and economic systems are all shifting in ways that mirror the predictions made in the Bible. Yet they do not seem immediately threatening. Consider the rapid advance of technology. We have entered an age where digital systems control much of our daily lives, from communication and commerce to our social interactions. We no longer question the ubiquity of technology, the way it is embedded in nearly every aspect of our lives. Smartphones, biometric scanning, and digital currencies are all emerging as the norm. At first glance, these advancements appear to offer convenience, security, and efficiency. They promise to make our lives easier, more connected, and more prosperous. But behind the shiny exterior lies a growing dependence on these systems, a dependence that could one day lead to a loss of personal freedom and privacy. These technological advancements, while seemingly harmless or even beneficial, have the potential to become tools of control in the hands of a few, enabling the rise of a system where every aspect of our lives is monitored and regulated. Is this not the very essence of the world system described in the Bible, one where people are unable to buy or sell without the mark? Similarly, the global push for unity and interconnectedness, while often framed as a pursuit of peace and cooperation, is another warning sign in plain sight. We hear constant calls for global governance, a world without borders, and a collective effort to tackle the world's problems. On the surface, this seems like a noble cause, one that strives to bring people together for the common good. Yet, when we dig deeper, we begin to see the potential dangers lurking beneath this seemingly harmless desire for unity. A world governed by global systems may sound appealing, but the reality could mean the loss of national sovereignty, individual freedoms, and the imposition of a one-world system that could be used to control the masses. We must ask ourselves, at what cost does this unity come? Is it truly the unity we desire? Or is it a unity that will lead to the consolidation of power in the hands of a few? And if we are not careful, could this global unity be the very mechanism that sets the stage for the rise of the 666 system? Economically, we are witnessing an increasing shift towards digital currencies and the collapse of traditional financial systems. Cash is becoming obsolete, and cryptocurrencies are gaining ground as an alternative. While these advancements can offer greater convenience and security, they also come with significant risks. Centralized digital currencies controlled by governments or corporations could easily lead to a system where every financial transaction is tracked and monitored. The ability to control access to money, to restrict or freeze accounts, and to impose financial penalties for non-compliance could become a reality in a digital economy. In such a system, financial freedom would be eroded, and individuals could find themselves powerless in the face of a system that dictates every aspect of their economic life. This too mirrors the Bible's warnings about a time when people will not be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. These are the warning signs in plain sight. They are all around us. Yet many of us miss them because we are looking for something else. We expect the signs to be loud, clear, and dramatic. But in reality, they come disguised in the everyday, in the things that seem innocent or even beneficial. Technology, global unity, and economic systems are all shifting in ways that reflect the predictions of the Bible, but because these shifts happen gradually and under the guise of progress, many people fail to recognize them for what they truly are. The danger lies in the fact that these changes do not appear threatening at first. They offer comfort, convenience, and efficiency, and so we embrace them without fully considering the long-term consequences. We must learn to discern the true meaning behind what we see, to look beyond the surface and understand the forces at work beneath it. The Bible warns us that the signs will be right in front of us, but it also cautions us that many will miss them because they are not looking in the right way. We must train ourselves to see beyond the surface, to question the status quo, and to understand the implications of the changes taking place around us. The world is shifting, and we must learn to recognize the warning signs before it's too late. The signs are in plain sight, but only if we open our eyes to them. The number 666 is not just a number. It represents a system, a mindset, a spiritual shift that's already underway. For centuries, the number 666 has been the subject of fascination, fear, and speculation. It has been associated with the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, and a future time of tribulation. But to reduce 666 to merely a number or a specific event is to miss the deeper meaning of what it represents. The number 666 is not just about a person who will rise to power. It's about a system, a philosophy, and a spiritual shift that is slowly but surely taking shape in the world around us. It is the embodiment of humanity's attempt to establish a kingdom that stands in direct opposition to the divine order that God has set in place. When we look at the number 666 in the book of Revelation, it is described as the number of the beast, a symbol of an oppressive system that will dominate the world in the end times. But we often overlook the fact that this number isn't just about a singular figure or an isolated event. It represents the larger spiritual and cultural shift that has been taking place for centuries. It symbolizes the human drive to establish a system of control and manipulation. a system that seeks to replace God's sovereign will with human authority. And it is evident in the systems of power, governance, and even culture that are emerging today. At its core, 666 represents humanity's desire to build a world according to its own rules and values, free from the constraints of divine authority. It is the ultimate expression of the rebellion against God that began in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve chose to follow their own desires rather than God's command. That spirit of self-reliance, of trying to replace God's guidance with human wisdom, is the very essence of the system represented by 666. This system is already being established through a variety of means: governance, technology, economics, and even culture. In the realm of governance, we are seeing the rise of authoritarian systems that place increasing power in the hands of a few, often under the guise of safety, security, or progress. These systems are built on the premise that human leaders know best and that their authority must be unquestioned. The focus is on control and conformity rather than on the freedoms and rights given by God. In such systems, the individual is often reduced to a mere cog in the machine, his or her worth determined not by divine purpose, but by productivity and compliance. This is the spirit of 666 at work. Human beings being reduced to mere tools in a system designed to replace God's order with a human-made one. Similarly, in the realm of technology, we see the rise of systems that promise to make our lives easier, more efficient, and more connected. But these advancements often come with a price: the loss of privacy, autonomy, and even individuality. Technology has become a powerful tool for surveillance, control, and manipulation. As we embrace more digital systems, whether it's through social media, smart devices, or biometric tracking, we are also opening the door to a system that can monitor our every move, influence our decisions, and ultimately reduce us to nothing more than data points in a vast, interconnected network. In this digital age, the line between freedom and control is becoming increasingly blurred, and it's easy to see how a system of control could be established through technology in ways we haven't fully comprehended yet. The convenience of digital life is seductive, but behind it lies the potential for a system that tracks, controls, and manipulates every aspect of our lives. Economically, we are moving toward a global system that seeks to eliminate borders and centralize power in a way that echoes the prophetic vision of Revelation. The push for a global currency, digital currencies, and the move away from cash all point to a world where financial freedom is gradually replaced by centralized control. The idea of a digital economy is attractive to many because it promises greater efficiency and transparency, but it also comes with a risk of total control. In such a system, the powers that be could dictate how, when, and where we spend our money. Our financial decisions could be monitored and influenced by forces far beyond our control. And we could find ourselves in a position where we are dependent on a system that leaves no room for personal autonomy. Again, this is the spirit of 666, the gradual erosion of personal freedom in favor of a system that promises security, but at the cost of individual liberty. Culturally, we are seeing the rise of ideologies and movements that seek to reshape society in ways that stand in direct opposition to God's design. There is a growing trend toward moral relativism, where truth is no longer seen as absolute, but as something that can be shaped by human desires. What was once considered wrong is now celebrated, and what was once considered right is often marginalized or demonized. This shift in values is part of the larger cultural war that seeks to replace God's standards with human ones, to replace divine authority with human wisdom. The result is a society where the foundation of truth is constantly shifting, and where people are encouraged to follow their own path rather than adhere to the principles set forth by God. This is a direct challenge to the divine order, and it is a manifestation of the system represented by 666. The number 666, then, is not just a number. It is a symbol of the human effort to control, manipulate, and replace God's plan. It represents a spiritual shift that is already underway, one that seeks to establish a system of power and authority that stands in direct opposition to God's sovereign will. This system is not something that will emerge suddenly in the future. It is already being built piece by piece in the systems of power, governance, technology, economics, and culture that we see today. We must learn to discern the true meaning behind what we see, and recognize that the forces at work around us are shaping a world that is increasingly disconnected from God's purpose. If we fail to recognize this, we will be swept along by the tide of change, unaware of the spiritual and moral consequences of the systems we are helping to build. The rise of 666 is not just a future event. It is a present reality that we must learn to understand and confront. Comfort is the great deceiver, making us believe that things are fine when in reality, the very foundation of our society is crumbling. We live in a time where comfort and convenience have become the ultimate goals of life. Technology allows us to have everything at our fingertips. Entertainment is instantly available. Communication is seamless and effortless. We have more comforts today than any generation before us, and on the surface it seems as though the world is progressing in a positive direction. But beneath the veneer of comfort lies a reality that is far more troubling. The ease with which we live today is often masking the slow erosion of the freedoms and values that have traditionally defined our societies. The systems of control, conformity, and surveillance that are emerging in the world are slowly but surely paving the way for a future where our freedoms will be compromised, and we may not even recognize the change until it's too late. The deceptive nature of comfort lies in its ability to lull us into a false sense of security. When things are easy, when life seems smooth and without resistance, we tend to stop questioning. We begin to assume that because everything is fine today, it will always be fine. But comfort, when taken to an extreme, can be dangerous because it distracts us from the very real dangers that may be lurking beneath the surface. As we immerse ourselves in our comfortable lives, we fail to see the subtle shifts in society, in culture, and in the global systems that are taking place without our awareness. The more comfortable we become, the less we question the systems and structures that are shaping our world. Comfort has a way of blinding us to the slow, creeping changes that are occurring all around us. Changes that are slowly but surely eroding our freedoms and our way of life. The danger of comfort is that it prevents us from seeing the forces that are working behind the scenes to consolidate power and control. When we are comfortable, we stop paying attention to the things that matter most. We become complacent, satisfied with the status quo, and unaware of the shifts taking place in the political, economic, and technological systems that govern our lives. The systems of control and surveillance that are being put in place today may not seem threatening on the surface. We are told that these systems exist for our protection, for our convenience, and for our security. We are told that the rise of digital currencies, surveillance technologies, and social control mechanisms are all meant to make our lives easier and safer. But what we fail to realize is that these systems can easily be turned against us, that the very things we embrace as conveniences can, in time, become the tools used to monitor, control, and even oppress us. Take, for example, the growing trend of digital surveillance. We are increasingly living in a world where our every move, every transaction, and even our conversations are being monitored. Smartphones track our location, our social media activity reveals our thoughts and preferences, and our online purchases expose our habits. While these technologies offer convenience and a sense of security, they also give those in power unprecedented access to our personal lives. What begins as a tool for efficiency and safety can quickly become a tool for control and manipulation. We may find ourselves living in a world where our actions, choices, and even our beliefs are tracked and scrutinized, where we are constantly being monitored and evaluated by a system that dictates what is acceptable and what is not. In the realm of governance too, we are seeing the rise of systems that promise security and stability, but at the cost of individual freedom. Governments, in the name of national security or public safety, are increasingly willing to infringe upon the rights and freedoms of individuals. We are witnessing the expansion of surveillance states, where citizens are under constant watch, and the loss of privacy has become the norm. What was once considered an unacceptable invasion of personal space is now being justified as a necessary step to protect society. The more comfortable we become with these intrusions, the less likely we are to push back against them. And as comfort continues to blind us, we may find ourselves living in a world where privacy is a thing of the past, and the very freedoms we take for granted are slowly but surely stripped away. Economically, the systems of control are also becoming more deeply entrenched. The rise of digital currencies and centralized financial systems promises to streamline transactions and eliminate fraud. But behind this convenience lies the potential for total control over our financial lives. Centralized digital currencies could easily be used to track and regulate every transaction we make, to impose restrictions on who can spend money and when, and to penalize individuals who step outside the bounds of the established system. What begins as a tool for financial efficiency and transparency could ultimately be used as a means of economic control, where the freedom to buy and sell is determined not by the market, but by a centralized authority that has the power to dictate every aspect of our financial lives. The truth is, comfort is not always as benign as it seems. It often comes with hidden costs that we fail to see in the moment. When we live in a world of unprecedented comfort, it becomes easy to ignore the dangers that are slowly creeping in. We are so focused on our convenience, on making life easier and more enjoyable, that we fail to see the larger implications of the systems that are being put in place around us. The more comfortable we become, the more likely we are to accept these systems without question, to embrace them as part of the natural progression of society. And when we do, we are unknowingly laying the groundwork for a future where our freedoms are compromised and where we are controlled by the very systems we once embraced. The comfort we experience today is not inherently bad. It is a gift that many generations before us could only dream of. But we must be careful not to let that comfort blind us to the changes that are taking place in our world. We must not allow our desire for ease and convenience to overshadow our need for vigilance and discernment. The forces that are working behind the scenes, seeking to establish systems of control and surveillance, are growing stronger every day. If we continue to live in complacency, distracted by the comfort we've come to take for granted, we may find ourselves in a future where the very freedoms and values we cherish are no longer within our reach. Comfort, in its many forms, is the great deceiver. It makes us believe everything is fine when, in reality, the world around us is changing in ways we may not fully understand until it's too late. What if the mark of the beast isn't just a physical mark, but a system that infiltrates our way of thinking and living? For many, the concept of the mark of the beast is often understood as a literal physical mark or tattoo that will be placed on people's hands or foreheads, as described in the book of Revelation. It is a symbol of allegiance to a system that opposes God's divine order. While this interpretation may hold some truth, we must also consider that the mark of the beast may not just be a physical sign, but a deeply ingrained system of control, one that shapes the way we think, act, and live. In the modern world, technology has become an integral part of our lives, and while it can be a force for good, it also presents a significant risk of becoming a tool of control and manipulation. The more we integrate technology into every aspect of our existence, the more we open ourselves to the possibility of a world where personal autonomy is gradually replaced by centralized control, where freedom is eroded in the name of convenience and security. Technology today is no longer just about gadgets and devices. It has evolved into a vast network of interconnected systems that influence nearly every facet of our lives. The rise of artificial intelligence, AI, biometric systems, and the global push for digital currencies are all examples of how technology is shaping the future of human existence. These innovations, while promising to make our lives easier, are also creating new ways to monitor, control, and manipulate society. At the heart of these developments is the growing trend of surveillance and data collection. With each new technological advancement, more and more of our personal information, behaviors, and preferences are being recorded, analyzed, and stored. From facial recognition software to biometric scans, our physical identities are being tied to digital profiles that are increasingly used to track and control our movements, purchases, and even our thoughts. The very devices we use to make life easier, our smartphones, smartwatches, and other connected technologies, are becoming tools of surveillance, providing those in power with unprecedented access to our personal lives. The concept of the mark of the beast in this context can be understood as a system of control that is not limited to a physical mark, but extends to the ways in which we are shaped and directed by technology. Imagine a world where every action you take, every decision you make, is monitored and influenced by algorithms designed to steer you in a particular direction. This is not a far-off dystopian future. This is a reality that is already beginning to take shape. AI-driven systems are already being used to determine what information we see, what products we buy, and even what we believe. Social media platforms, for example, use algorithms to curate the content we are exposed to, shaping our views and opinions without us even realizing it. These systems are designed to create a world where our preferences, our choices, and even our very thoughts are shaped by external forces. In this sense, technology is not just a tool for convenience, but a tool for control. A system that infiltrates our minds and our lives, making us more susceptible to manipulation. Biometric systems, too, are playing a growing role in this new world order. Our faces, our fingerprints, our retinal patterns, all of these biological markers are increasingly being used to verify our identity and access services. While this may seem like a harmless convenience, it also opens the door to a level of surveillance that is unprecedented. Biometric data is unique to each individual, making it an ideal means of tracking and controlling people. Once our biometric data is stored in databases, it can be used to monitor our movements, track our purchases, and even determine our access to certain resources. This creates a system in which our personal autonomy is severely limited, where every aspect of our lives is subject to scrutiny and control by those who manage the data. The more we rely on biometric systems, the more we risk becoming part of a larger system that controls our every move, action, and decision. The global push for digital currencies is another key aspect of the system of control that is emerging. While digital currencies, such as Bitcoin, promise greater efficiency and security in financial transactions, they also represent a significant shift towards centralized control over our money. Traditional currencies like cash allow for a degree of anonymity and freedom in our transactions. But with digital currencies, every transaction is recorded and traceable. Governments and corporations could use this information to monitor our spending habits, track our financial movements, and impose restrictions on what we can buy or sell. A digital currency system controlled by a central authority could be used to enforce conformity and compliance, punishing those who step out of line or fail to adhere to the prescribed norms. This is the essence of the mark of the beast, a system that controls not just our physical movements, but our economic and social choices as well. In this world, personal autonomy would be a thing of the past. Every action we take would be subject to the rules and regulations set by those in power, and our choices would be limited by the technological systems that govern our lives. The more we embrace these systems, the more we risk becoming enslaved to them. What begins as a tool for convenience, an AI assistant, a biometric scan, a digital wallet, can quickly become a means of control, a system that monitors and manipulates every aspect of our existence. The unseen forces of technology and control are already at work, and we are only beginning to understand the full extent of their power. We are told that these advancements will improve our lives, make them more efficient, and bring us closer together. But in reality, they are creating a world where personal freedom and autonomy are slowly being replaced by systems of surveillance, regulation, and conformity. The mark of the beast, then, is not just a physical mark, but a mindset, a shift in how we view ourselves and our place in the world. It is a system that infiltrates our way of thinking, our way of living, and ultimately our ability to make choices, free from external control. The forces of technology, while offering great promise, also carry with them the risk of creating a world where we no longer have the freedom to live as we choose. If we fail to recognize the dangers of these systems, we may find ourselves living in a world where freedom is no longer possible, and where the mark of the beast is not a physical symbol, but an invisible force that controls every aspect of our lives. Just because it's happening now doesn't mean it's too late to act. The truth is, the systems that are gradually being put in place, systems of control, surveillance, and manipulation, are not just future threats. They are unfolding in real time. We are living in an age where the forces behind the rise of the 666 system are already at work. But just because they are happening now doesn't mean we have to be passive participants. The Bible does not just warn us about the rise of these systems, it also equips us with the tools we need to stand firm in faith, discern truth, and act with wisdom. The first step toward overcoming these forces is awareness. Awareness is not just about recognizing the threat. It's about understanding the nature of the battle and the spiritual, mental, and practical steps we must take to prepare ourselves for the days ahead. Awareness is the foundation upon which everything else is built. When we are unaware, we are susceptible to being swept along by the current, unable to see the danger that is slowly creeping up on us. But when we are aware, we can begin to see things as they truly are. We can understand the systems at work around us. The Bible speaks to this in many places, urging us to be alert and vigilant, to guard our hearts and minds, and to test everything by the Word of God. Awareness isn't just about recognizing what's happening on the surface. It's about seeing through the deception, understanding the motives behind the actions, and preparing ourselves for what lies ahead. The Bible doesn't just tell us to be aware. It also provides us with the tools we need to stand firm in faith. We are not helpless in the face of these systems. We have been given the armor of God, the wisdom of Scripture, and the power of prayer to defend ourselves against the spiritual forces that are at work behind the scenes. We are not called to be passive observers of the world's descent into chaos. We are called to be active participants in the kingdom of God, to stand firm in our faith and to resist the systems of this world that seek to enslave us. Standing firm means refusing to be swept along by the currents of culture and technology that seek to diminish our autonomy and our relationship with God. It means standing up for truth, even when it is unpopular, and being willing to speak out against the systems that are designed to control and manipulate us. In addition to standing firm in faith, we must also learn to discern the truth. In an age where information is abundant, but truth is often hard to find, discernment is a crucial skill. The Bible teaches us to test everything, to hold on to what is good and to reject what is evil. In the context of the world today, this means not accepting everything we hear or see at face value. It means digging deeper, asking questions, and seeking wisdom from God's Word. Discernment is about understanding the true nature of the systems at work in our world and being able to distinguish between what is of God and what is of the enemy. It's about recognizing when we are being manipulated, controlled, or deceived, and choosing to reject those forces in favor of God's truth. Finally, we must act with wisdom. Awareness and discernment alone are not enough. Once we recognize the danger, we must take action. This action doesn't always have to be dramatic or public. Sometimes it's about making small, intentional choices in our everyday lives that reflect our commitment to God's truth. It might mean rejecting certain technologies that compromise our privacy or autonomy. It could mean educating ourselves and our families about the dangers of surveillance and control, so we can make informed decisions about the tools we use and the systems we support. It might involve standing firm in our faith in the face of pressure to conform to a world that is increasingly hostile to God's principles. And it certainly involves being prepared spiritually, mentally, and practically for what is to come. Spiritual preparation involves strengthening our relationship with God, growing in our faith, and learning to rely on His guidance and wisdom. Mental preparation means equipping ourselves with the knowledge and understanding we need to navigate the complexities of the modern world so we can make informed decisions and resist the forces of deception and control. Practical preparation could involve taking steps to protect our privacy, securing our digital lives, and being aware of the systems we are engaging with on a daily basis. But it also means being prepared to act when the time comes, whether that means speaking out, taking a stand, or simply living in a way that reflects God's kingdom rather than the world's. We must rise above apathy and complacency. It's easy to ignore the signs and assume that everything will be fine, but the Bible warns us against the danger of falling asleep in the face of danger. In the parable of the 10 virgins, 5 were wise and prepared, while 5 were foolish and unprepared. When the bridegroom came, those who were unprepared were shut out. The lesson is clear. We cannot afford to be spiritually, mentally, or practically unprepared. Now is the time to be alert, to take action, and to make sure we are ready for whatever comes next. While the forces at work in our world are real and powerful, we are not without hope. God has equipped us with everything we need to stand firm, to discern truth, and to act with wisdom. The systems of control that are being put in place are not inevitable. We can resist them, but we must be aware, we must be discerning, and we must be willing to take action when the time comes. The Bible doesn't just warn us about the rise of the 666 system, it also gives us the hope and the tools to resist it. Now is the time to rise up, to prepare ourselves, and to act with courage, faith, and wisdom. The world may be changing, but we are not without a guide, and we are not without a purpose. The future is still in God's hands, and He has called us to be His light in a world that is becoming increasingly dark. We must rise to the challenge, not in fear, but in faith. In conclusion, we stand at a critical juncture in history, where the forces of technology, control, and deception are rapidly shaping the world around us. The signs are already in front of us, unfolding quietly yet persistently. But just because it's happening now doesn't mean it's too late to act. The Bible has not only warned us of what is to come, but has equipped us with the tools we need to rise above fear, complacency, and apathy. Awareness is the first step, and with that awareness comes the responsibility to stand firm in our faith, to discern the truth, and to act with wisdom. We are called not to be passive observers, but active participants in God's plan. The mark of the beast may not just be a physical sign. It is a system, a mindset, and a shift that seeks to control our very way of life. But we are not powerless in the face of it. We have been given the strength to resist, the wisdom to discern, and the courage to stand firm. The systems of this world may grow stronger, but our faith in God and His promises is unshakable. Now is the time to prepare, not with fear, but with anticipation. We must prepare spiritually, mentally, and practically, so that we are not swept away by the tide of change, but are ready to stand as beacons of truth, love, and hope. The enemy may be at work behind the scenes, but we have the light of Christ shining within us. The victory has already been won, and we are more than conquerors through Him who loves us. Let us not be deceived by the comforts and conveniences of this world. Let us rise above the distractions and remain vigilant, knowing that the battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual forces that seek to undermine God's divine order. The world is changing, but we are called to stand firm, to shine brighter, and to be the salt of the earth in this hour. It's happening now, but it's not too late to act. The time to rise is now.